Welcome to Smooth Brain Radio, the talk show where we iron out the wrinkles of your brain, one topic at a time. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and everyone in between, to Smooth Brain Radio. Oh yeah, I am Lothens. I am here with, of course, Infectious Influence.
What's up?
And we have a special ed guest today, Grimsy, the original person we were supposed to have on this little three-seater podcast. He is joining us today for the first time. Grimsy, hello.
The milk has freed me and I am here.
Yes. All right, so this will be episode number 4. Really excited about this one because it is my turn once again to choose the topic, and I have chosen, can a being exist outside of time? And I don't know if you guys have even ever thought about this before, but I haven't really a whole lot until recently. And the reason I was thinking about this was actually a recent episode of the podcast, but really time is sort of a mystery. You know, we're sort of divided in what we think time is. You know, is it a human construct only? Does it only really matter to us? And have we created this measure of time to sort of describe how we move through space? Or is it a fundamental quality of the universe and everything experiences time just like we do? And then you have things that are sort of anomalies. You have firefighters, for example, who describe when they're in an emergency event, time seems to slow down, and they feel time differently than they normally do, and they can recognize that,
Right, talking about all of a sudden slow down. I could weed through the fire real quick, and I could hear better, etc. Their senses are enhanced, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Like your senses are just expanded to the point where time slows down to a crawl, and you can make better decisions faster. And athletes say this as well sometimes. They feel like the game slows down, where they can see everything clearly and they can predict what's going to happen a little bit quicker than their opponents, perhaps. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
So I'm trying to establish some ground rules on this personally right now, is because one, I was ill prepared this time. I've been on call this week, so explains the delay in the recording and the, getting out to everybody. So my fault yet once again. That being said, like you said in the opening there, you're human, right? So is the word time itself is obviously a human thing, pure and simple. We're the only species that creates a language that makes sure every other person can learn or understand, right? We're the only ones with language that we know of. So time is just a word, but going through the environment that we live in, right? I'm going to bring us in some other episodes. If this is a simulation, we're in a 3D environment and we move through it like an object, right? We give this association with the word time and a dilation of events that occur throughout our span of recording, if you will. The human brain records memories as we're going through this. Again, I'm talking to simulation shit. So we're going through, our brain records snippets of information, and that creates a thing called time for us, right? So in being a being, right? What is, that's another word. Obviously, a definition of a being is something with intelligence that is aware of itself, I would assume. I'm just going by memory
referencing
here,
to like a conscious thing that is aware of itself, aware of its existence in the universe and wherever that happens to be.
Okay. I'm going back to that firefighter thing real quick. Now, isn't that just a perception of time? Because you're ingesting more information because of adrenaline. So your perception is that time is slowing down when it's actually just an overload of information. So then does that mean that is a second different to something that is able to ingest more information?
Yeah, that's a high probability. I mean, that's a nice
I like
twist
that.
There. Right. Welcome,
like that.
Grizzly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's like anytime you see like the Flash, right? Is he really moving that fast, or is he just bringing in so much information?
Wait, I feel something. Something's happening.
Not
I think that's a new wrinkle.
Don't go that far.
I think it's a
He
wrinkle.
hasn't impressed us that much.
Oh, God.
That was nice, though. I like it. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you can ingest twice the amount of information from your senses as a normal person, that might give that sensation of time being moving slower than everyone else.
What about the being part of it, though? Because that's the kind of being exists, right? So I'm looking at my dog.
Mm-hmm.
It just exists. The word time and the word being are to describe something for us, right? But no matter what, the birds outside are a part of this environment. So it's a being. It exists. So time itself is the fabric here that makes up everything, right? I mean, no, nothing can exist outside of time if it's not a part of the environment. That's where I was going with the tail end of my thing, just so you know. Even if it's in a simulation, if it's not coded to be a part of the simulation, then it does not exist. So it is not a being, it's a nothing, right? And it's outside of time, so therefore it's null. From my vantage, from my viewpoint.
You brought up animals, right? So we got a lot of animals that seem to be able to, like, I mean, think of like a fly, right? It seems like a fly can perceive time much faster than you because it's able to move so quickly when you go to whack the little bastard, right? So they have a lifespan of what, a week? So is it a year to them and time is just, absorbed differently to them?
Yeah, it's like every second to a fly a year in our time or something.
Right, but it's still it's coded into the environment to exist, right? So it is a part of the timeline that is that environment. So yeah, it's a being that exists in time. I'm taking your question to the literal here, right?
Literally, literally, yeah, absolutely. And that's really why I opposed it, is to try to do a little thought experiment. Can you imagine something that can be alive in our universe, that exists and is not affected by time at all? And I have a little
dimensional being.
I have a little blurb.
Okay.
So this is from Forbes.com. It's from the Quora website, which is owned by Forbes.
Okay. Yeah.
So Quora is Q&A. People ask questions, and anybody can log in there as long as you have an account and just answer it. So it's like a Wikipedia for questions and answers, just a free for all. But there was, let's see, and I don't know who this is from, but this is very scientific. So it says nothing that contains energy is outside of time. The reason is that the energy of an object is linked by quantum physics to the rate of oscillation of its wave function. Thus, if you have energy, including any rest energy, then your quantum wave function is oscillating with some kind of frequency. So if you exist, and I take it to mean that you have some non-zero energy, then you vary through time. And so that's sort of my baseline, is if you have molecules that make up your person, your construction, those molecules are moving. They have to keep moving. They're particles have what's called a spin, right? Yeah. They're either up spin or down spin, and it oscillates so many times per second, either direction. So as long as that is happening, then time seems like it's a requirement for that to even occur.
That poses a question for me. If we're not on the same frequency as this other thing that's oscillating at a different frequency, could we even be able to see it?
No, because that would be the anti, right? That'd be the antimatter.
So then the question is, could multiple layers of beings existing on different frequencies exist on the planet at the same time, all moving at different spaces, but we can't see each other.
Yes, a radio wave is a prime example of that. A radio wave, a microwave, etc., etc. Right? I mean, we
X-rays,
have
yeah.
What if we're accidentally killing 5G people?
It could be. Could be.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's a microwave
This
signal,
phone,
so
this phone service is great.
well, I mean, if they flat out tell you don't put your phones up to your ears, it's best to use the iPhone at a distance on speakerphone. So
I'm unaffected. I'm a 3.7G person.
That was true on 2G. See, I'm the phone guy, so I've researched this. In 2G, you know, when flip phones first came out and all this, you know, hello Moto and all this stuff, that was the case. You know, and you didn't want to get that thing anywhere near your brain because bad things could happen over a long period of time and exposure to the carrier wave that was being sent out and received. 3G, that kind of went away for the most part. It's not really a thing anymore. 5G, and I have no freaking idea because I haven't researched it, but that was from the 2G era of cell phones, which you referenced there.
Okay. So, but not only are the 2G signals, the 1G signals, but we have television signals. We have all kinds of, just for the sake of bundling it into one word, radio waves around us at all times, cell towers, et cetera, et cetera. So if our particles are, they themselves, constantly in motion, perceiving time at that fucking, I don't know, call it nanoscale, even beyond, you know, quantum scale, if you will, right? If everything's moving at the quantum scale within our physical body, you know, all of the radio antennas that are coming through the skies, they're absolutely penetrating through us or getting distorted. You know, one sound wave against another sound waves creates 4 different type sound waves all going in different directions. You have the original 2 hitting each other, and then you have the mixture of the 2 going in their, you know, respective planes of, you know, motion, if you will. So, you know, it creates more different sounds, a combination of 2. But that being said, even the radio waves are moving through time. It's not a being though, so but a wave could exist without time, I do believe. That'd be what I was trying to say.
Well, it would be frozen. It's there is an example of that where there's a wave function frozen in time. And it's the well, you guys probably know the reference of the God particle, okay? Where they were trying to find the underlying cause for the laws of nature, the laws of physics. Like what set them in place when, you know, our universe began. And God, I'm blanking on the actual name of the particle that they
it's the Higgs boson, that they came up with. Not mistaken.
The Higgs, the Higgs boson. So the Higgs boson has no spin. The particle doesn't move. It's as if it's frozen where it is. So the wave function of a Higgs particle field doesn't move. It's frozen where it is. So that's why they believe that it's the thing that dictated at the beginning of the universe the laws of physics as we know them today. Like it set them in stone, and that's why they're so reliable. To the point where we haven't seen any deviation from them.
Have we managed to recreate that frozen in time?
The Higgs boson? Particle? Yeah, it's been the whole reason we can say that it's called the Higgs boson particle is because it was replicated at the, you know, repeatedly. I mean, that's science. It's, you know, theory.
So if it's frozen, if you shot that particle at a person, is it permanently trapped inside them, or when they move it stays in that same place?
Well, that's can you move that particle, pure and simple?
I need to know.
Could it be a potential pixel in the screen, if you will, of vision?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, that's why I'm curious. If you fired it into a person, does it stay with the person, or does it stay in that space?
Right, or does everything around each boson that exists?
If the planet's rotating, does it technically stay where it originally was, at those exact coordinates as the planet's rotating, or like?
I mean, we'll have to figure that one out on the next side of this commercial.
Oh, God.
Timing.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. And we're back, talking about can it be exist outside time here on Smooth Brain Radio. Myself, Lothens, Infectious, Grimsy.
Bad.
And so far we figured out that we don't really know what the hell we're talking about, but I think half a wrinkle was created earlier when Grimsy brought up this the thing about the firefighters, man. You're taking in more information in a second, blah, blah, and it really scrambled something up there.
And that's a chain reaction
We could
event.
fire one of those bosons in your head if you'd like. We could try it. See if it knocks in another wrinkle for you.
Well, something that I always thought was really, really cool. I'm sorry, my bad.
No, go ahead. Go ahead and continue.
So, you mentioned how radio waves travel through time. I mean, we've been broadcasting a signal into space since the invention of the radio, basically. And, let's say, for example, I don't know, how long has the radio been in existence? Anybody know?
I think it was
75 years, 100 years?
1930s is ringing something in my head for some reason. Or even 1919. Somewhere around there.
It's like 100 years, we'll say.
Yeah.
Something like that. So for 100 years, we've been broadcasting a signal from our planet
nonstop,
outward into the universe in all directions, right? And it's spreading out. It's getting weaker as it goes, but it's there. So if somebody had a radio telescope on a planet that was within 100 light years of Earth, they would be starting to pick those signals up right now. And they would see, they would start to be able to experience our radio transmissions from that time. Now, something I saw recently, the reason I'm mentioning this is the James Webb Space Telescope. I haven't looked into this too much. It might be bullshit, but and of course the clickbait titles are saying, the James Webb Telescope just found a planet that appears to have artificial lights on it, like street lights and,
really
house lights and things. So, and I haven't researched, I haven't looked into it. Yeah. So if that's the case, depending on how far away this planet is from us, let's say it's 800 light years away from Earth, just to pull a number out of my head. We're seeing that planet as it was 800 years into its past. So whatever has transpired since then, we have no idea. But it's present, and what we are looking at are 800 years different.
Right.
I always thought that was weird.
Photon light reflection.
Right. It's the speed that light can travel to us. So we're seeing 800-year-old light, basically.
Well, maybe even be double, because it takes time for our light to go to it and then for it to bounce back, or whatever light source it has on it to come to us, right? So if its star is, say, 30 hours away from it, it's, I'm really getting technical here just to be nerdy. So.
Everything in the solar system has exploded, and we have no idea that it happened.
Right. Well, I mean,
That's exactly
even
right.
sound itself, there's recordings on Elite Dangerous when you're mousing over the planets. That sound representation that you hear is supposed to be sound from a a radio antenna recording that particular planet, if it's a real one, or at least it mimics the sounds of space, right? So explosions, sound waves or waves pure and simple would travel from explosions, right? Even in space, they'll continue. So you could technically watch a planet's complete evolution if you're focused on it just by listening to it, is all I'm trying to get at here. You start introducing radio waves and other forms of like that, you're changing the waveforms to give more information. So that's where the layering effect of dimensions, if you will, kind of comes into play. Is what I was referencing earlier. Because a dimensional being could exist in all time and all spaces simultaneously. So I'm trying to answer the question, can a being exist outside of time? Yes, I think so. If it's a dimensional being.
Okay. Well, what does dimensional being mean, though?
It's the doctor.
I don't know what that means.
Well, a photon.
Because I mean, I grew up. Well, I grew up in a Lutheran Christian upbringing. So when you say a dimensional being exists, in all of time and all of space simultaneously, that rings bells in my head. You're describing
angels,
the Christian God, right?
Well, I mean, so angels, demons, it could be anything that you want to call a deity. It could be the creator of code, the writer of the code that we're in. It could be anything, because that's the thing. We don't know what a being in the fourth dimension looks like, but yet we know the fourth dimension exists because we can see its shadow in the third dimension, right? So
technicality, but you're describing something that's still within time. If it's experiencing all of time simultaneously, it's still in time.
Yes, correct.
So it's not outside, basically.
What if it chooses to be in time?
Is the fourth dimension a part of time that the third dimension perceives? Like, because we go through life as a series of, we're literally take a recording, watch any movie that you've ever watched. It is literally a series of slices of time, exactly, stitched together to give you the perception of motion. That's
an amazing segue. That's an amazing segue. My second piece of notes here is from a book written by Adam Frank, and it's called Cosmology and Culture at the Twilight of the Big Bang. And within it, he references another scientist, Julian Barber, and this is basically a quoting Barber. So he says, as we live, we seem to move through a succession of nows. And the question is, what are they? And so for Barber, each now is an arrangement of everything in the universe. This is a quote, we have the strong impression that things have definite positions relative to each other. I aim to abstract away everything we cannot see, directly or indirectly, and simply keep this idea of many different things coexisting at once. There are simply the nows, nothing more, nothing less. So this seems to me, he's talking about the multiverse theory, where not just every decision splits off a new possible universe, but every nanosecond in time is splitting off these different multiverses. So every now, according to him, is a new slice of the multiverse. So he says,
that makes perfect sense.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, that makes perfect sense, because just that idea of me coming up to interrupt you just momentarily, in and of itself, that idea came from somewhere, and it formed before my mouth could even say it. So the idea of having an idea fracturing the multiverse is just fucking mind-blowing me right now. Not even going through the motion, just having the potential thought of an idea being the beginning of
the wrinkle just went away.
Multiverse.
Does that mean that time when I think, I should poop, that there's another me that just shit his pants?
Yes, absolutely. Not only did it, but God. Every particular,
that man's a disgusting bastard.
Possible, every possible outcome exists.
Well, there's a me that needs a damn diaper, and a Lothens that needs a diaper.
Well, it's time.
Wow. To put a magnifying glass on this, so he says,
okay.
The cat that jumps is not the same cat that lands. So
Okay.
the physics of reality for him, for Barber, is the physics of these nows taken together as a whole. There's no past moment that flows into a future moment. Instead, all the different possible configurations of the universe, every possible location of every atom throughout everything exists simultaneously.
This Schrodinger's cat.
This is Schrodinger's cat on a to the extreme, okay?
On an acid bender.
Schrodinger's particles, okay? And every particle in the universe he's putting it in there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crazy. It's wild. But
it's factual and all right. The if word comes into play here, so I'm going to use it heavily. If we're not in a simulation, right? And you look up and you know that there's a universe out there, a physical universe. Everything has to exist right now. Everything. So that James Webb Space Telescope image of, the faintest light that it's picked up so far, which is, 400,000 years after the Big Bang, supposedly, from what I've read on.
Yeah, we don't notice things popping in and out of existence all the time. Right. They're not there, and then they're not there, and then they're there again. Yeah.
Right, but the particles are there, so is that really looking into history, or is that the now? Kind of where I'm going with that. So, I mean...
Well, this makes me think about past, present, future. It's the way I think about putting it in perspective of Julian Barber here, with the cat that jumps, not the same as the cat that lands. Previous experiences are called the past, obviously, but we remember those experiences in the now. Yeah. So they only exist when we remember them again, and that only happens right now. And then experiences that have not occurred yet are called the future, obviously, but we can't remember those experiences because it hasn't happened, but we can imagine them. We can imagine what the future might be like, but we have to imagine the future right now in the present. And then, things that are happening right now immediately are called the present. We're experiencing this directly, obviously, but yeah, you're right. I mean, you can only think about the past right now. You can only think about the future right now. Oh, who knows? I don't know.
So what if we have we think we have free will, but we actually don't have free will. We're actually traveling down a pre-assigned line. And that moment when you get deja vu is you realizing that you're on this line. You already know what's going to happen. You can't stop it.
That's kind of... I want to think that's a piece of episode 2 is coming to my mind. I can't remember specifically what the simulation episode. Yeah.
I think, what was it, that one Marvel movie with Loki or whatever? I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes, but the whole thing was Loki. There was a crew of people keeping this timeline to only these events are allowed to happen. Yeah. No branching timeline.
Yeah. So I've lost the train of thought where you were at, so I'm going to ask you to repeat it if you don't mind. But if you can't remember it, then where I was going with it is if something to begin with, pure and simple, outside of, because you're talking about a linear fate path, right? Everything's predetermined, and the deja vu moment is either a memory or something from the potential splinter simulation, if you will, right? The multiverse, if you will. But if that's the case, then if everything, like if the thought of even having an idea splinters into a multiverse, then it's unfathomable the amount of data that would be required to process that particular outcome.
Yeah.
I mean, then the simulation theory just breaks, pure and simple. It's just too much. So the predictiveness, yes, is a piece of the equation, providing it's a simulation, because you're looking for you're given an A scenario and you're trying to get a B result, pure and simple. So input, output. I don't know. I mean, That's not a being, it's just a set of code and calculations. So nothing exists outside of the simulation, because it's all fictional, I think. Commercial break.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. And we're back on the attack, trying to figure out, can a being exist outside of time? And, deja vu, I mean, I don't know. Deja vu to me is like the idea of the multiverse is crossing at that moment and becoming one again. And then they split immediately after that. That's the way I kind of look at deja vu. But I mean, Grimsy, we haven't heard too much from you. How about?
Go ahead.
Never mind. Brain stop work.
Brain off.
No speak anymore. Bye.
So he was talking about that whole timeline bit there. Now you were talking about people when they're in situations where the random burst of energy. Now, what about when you're hearing people saying that I saw my life flash before my eyes? What if when you pass away you're just repeating that timeline event in your head, and we're not actually alive right now, but we're just reliving that period of time forever in an endless loop? And deja vu is just us remembering it.
Like that, we're just some sort of form of energy that goes through all these multiple destinations, if you will, kind of a simulation.
Yeah, what if we're permanently stuck in this time period and we're just reliving our space and time forever? Yeah, there you go.
They're going to put up with you guys for
reincarnation
forever.
Oh my God.
Reincarnation is a form of lesson learning. The way I've always took reincarnation, and what you're talking about is to me that's what that sounds like. What we're here to do right now,
man. You just live in the same.
Well, absolutely.
Simulation room, control room. No. Unplug me now.
If this is base reality, then if the reincarnation exists, right? Deja vu would have to be a form of reincarnation, because that's a memory. Right? Tell me if you've ever had deja vu and you be like, this absolutely happened before. I know it happened before because I remember it, explicitly every moment, right? Because for whatever reason, your senses were enhanced.
Code.
Well, it could be programmed, but if this is base reality, then reincarnation would potentially be a form of that. And I'd say, yeah, we are energy that gets reincarnated. What would be the purpose of reincarnation? Learning a lesson. You won't know that lesson until you pass away to come to the final judgment and be reincarnated again to go on to the next lesson, pass-fail scenario. I kind of thought that once.
We're going to open up the Bhagavad Gita.
Well, I thought about that a long time ago.
Live on air.
I would like to buy the DLC for a better character in this game.
Well, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, my character's put on some weight. I want to buy the 6-pack DLC and maybe like the Lamborghini swap or something,
Well, if we're a being that knows how to traverse time, what's to say that that's not a possibility?
Listen, I've been thinking really hard, and that car ain't popping out of nowhere, okay? It ain't working for me.
Well, then that means you're not alive in the future.
Okay, think it.
Dear God, I'm the NPC. No.
Well, okay. Think about this for a second. So if I were to ask you to stand up and walk over there, and then come back and sit down again, you're moving through space
and time,
but you're traveling within time from this point to that point and back again. Mm-hmm. But if I were to tell you, okay. Now, well, and I can tell you to go over there and stop moving through space. You can do that. Kind of, because we're moving all the
Right.
whatever.
Minus the quantum movement. I got you.
Right. But if I were to tell you and say, hey, Grimsey, how about you move over there and then stop traveling through time?
He can. To you, he 100% can. To your perception of time. But not from his perception of time.
Maybe if he goes into a black hole or something.
No, absolutely not. No.
It would appear.
The minute we disconnect from Discord and stop talking and conversing amongst each other, he disappears. He's no longer rendered for your equation or your your calculation.
But he is still, from his perspective, still traveling through time.
So the being that is Grimsey exists in space and time for the being that is Grimsey, and only for him.
Listen, the Grim computer ain't got too much power. I don't have real good draw distance, okay? I can't. But this feels like that situation. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around, then it whacks the balls.
It's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. I mean, that's why that whole thought, experiment exists. It quite literally is that.
So here's the thing, right? If you go out into the woods and I don't know, break your leg, and I go out to the woods 3 hours later, and you're still writhing in pain, I think it still happened.
Right. Well, all I'm trying to get at is from the individual's perspective, it doesn't nothing exists outside of your senses, your environment, immediate environment, I should say. So, yeah, I mean, you could technically say that outer space doesn't exist. Why the hell do you think that we got flat earthers out there? I mean, nothing against y'all. Y'all make some cool little projects to take your brain down, but bro, you ain't give me no wrinkles.
Make cool little projects trying to prove the flat Earth theory, and then end up proving the round Earth theory at the same time.
Exactly.
Or like the one man that made a rocket and it blew up in the air.
But
NASA wouldn't let me ride in the rocket. I'll make my own with a propane tank and a torch.
Oh, that was crazy. That guy was crazy as hell. Could you imagine doing that, man, yourself? Oh, fucking hell! Balls.
Did you guys hear about it? Was
I don't know.
I think it was some African country that was like trying to create their own space program, and they had like no materials, they had no money, they had nothing, and they were just like putting shit together. Yeah, they were just putting shit together. Like they find some sheet metal and just start forming it around, trying to build this rocket, and they're like, "We'll get there one day." Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
Well, here's the thing. They have the potential. They have the potential to get there. It's just, how do you get back? And then once you get there and the oxygen goes, now what?
But they are beings that exist in time, right? And you can look at what they've done. So I'm telling you, man, if we could see a fourth dimensional being, they would be outside. Technically, a fourth dimensional being is outside of our time, the way we perceive it. Right. What we call time.
If we get faster than light travel, are we time traveling technically?
Yes.
FTL, yes, 100%.
Because you can travel forward through time all you want. That's Einstein has that built into his equations.
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing, right?
A spaceship that goes fast enough.
But here's the interesting thing. You'd look at that telescope, right, and you go, oh, there's lights on that planet. And then you would fly there in what? It would be...
Totally different.
Yeah, completely.
It would be totally different. It would be 800
thousands of years later?
For that planet.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, how would it
wait. Faster than light, no. Faster than light, you could get there at any particular point in time that you chose, to be honest with you. Because faster than light is time travel.
Well, even approaching the speed of any speed that is faster than we are like passively traveling on our planet is technically time travel into the future. Astronauts come back and like their clocks are different than everybody on the ground, right? It's not that much different. It's like Yeah. It's like just split seconds difference. But if you were traveling anywhere near the speed of light, and let's say you spent 6 months going out, 6 months coming back, and you're going like 99% of the speed of light on your spaceship, when you come back to Earth, a year has passed for you, and 1,000,000 years has passed on Earth.
Can you imagine traveling to a planet that you're watching through a telescope, and then 800 years people being able to look through that telescope and see you do that?
Right. You're just coming, that you're inevitable. You're just coming and coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
Just put up a big sign in space that says I am inevitable. 800 years later, they're like, who the fuck is this?
Well, okay, so if you're on the ship, right, you're traveling to that planet. Oh my God. Okay, so as you're observing this planet, are you watching their 800 years play
evolve
out in like fast forward?
Yeah. Yes.
As you're getting closer, it's like just fast forwarding forward.
Wait a second. So question: could you travel to that planet and then use a telescope to look back at our past?
Yes.
Oh God.
Because technically
that'd
would
be weird. Wouldn't that be weird though?
Well,
being able to travel between 2 points and see 800 years prior.
If you're traveling, let's say you're traveling at the speed of light, exactly, okay, away from Earth, you would see no change whatsoever. Everything on Earth would freeze from your perspective when you're looking back at it, because you're keeping pace with the light that's coming to you from Earth. If you slow down just a little bit, then you're going to start to see some changes, but it's going to be in like super slow-mo.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super slow motion. So, but if you're going faster than light, Earth will just disappear. You won't even see it anymore because the light can't keep up with you.
Correct.
Oh, well, actually.
Well, no.
Would you start seeing in reverse? Would it reverse? Would it reverse?
No, I think you would have a pause moment. You would see it.
Well, I mean, you're looking back. Right?
Right.
From the moment you faster than the light.
It would be on pause. I'm telling you, it would be 100% stead still. No longer super duper slow motion, but 100% stopped. It's a still frame. Because
I think if you're going faster than light, though. Yeah, if you're going faster than light, you're traveling through the light wave, forward through it.
Right. But your perception of looking back is stuck at that moment that you left. It can no longer go forward. It can't go backwards. It is literally a still frame because you went faster than light can keep up with you, right? So the only thing you can see if you had the option to look back, if it wasn't nothing, would be that still frame. It'd have to be.
But the light that had already left is still traveling.
No, because you're cruising through it. So yeah, you're right. You would still see slices of time.
Wouldn't it technically reverse?
That's what I'm saying. I think you would start seeing it reverse.
If you're flying in a ship in faster than light and you look back at our planet, it would technically be rewinding. Now, if you're looking at that planet, it's fast forwarding. Oh, that would be trippy as shit. Oh my God.
Now, could you look back with a good enough telescope to see yourself on planet Earth before you took off? Going in reverse.
If you were traveling in faster than light, wouldn't you just be watching several stacked versions of yourself traveling through time space?
Well, no, like he said, you would be seeing yourself going reversed in time. You wouldn't see no stacking, I don't think.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you're looking behind you, you would see your ship and then your ship and then your ship.
See the spaceship.
Right? Yeah.
Oh God.
Because you're traveling faster than light, and the only thing you see behind you would be you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It makes my brain hurt. Oh God.
But the key element that still exists in this whole equation that we're talking about is the being, the observer, right? So.
And you're still inside of time in some capacity.
Correct. So you remove that being from the equation. Did any of it exist? Again, disconnect from Discord. Is Grimsy really there? I don't know. We'll have to figure that one out here coming up after this commercial break, I think. So, see you on the flip.
I can confirm I exist.
Smooth Brain Radio will be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And you'd hear something right now if we had any. Welcome back to Smooth Brain Radio, ironing out your brain one wrinkle at a time. Hello, welcome back.
Does anybody's brain feel like they've just been wrung out, like it's full of water and it's no longer fully water, like it's a sham wow that could absorb a bunch and then just went sploosh?
My brain is so dry it could disintegrate on my tongue like a nicely cooked piece of bacon.
You are a terrible person.
Bacon.
This man right here is the kind of man who goes to a place and goes, I want crispy bacon. And they go, how crispy? He goes, wait till the fire alarm goes off. I want it to reconstitute on my tongue as charcoal.
It's like just extra spice, man. It's
you know what would be even better? If I was traveling through space in that ship, I could look back and see your bacon being unfucked.
Oh, Lord,
and you would see me crying
great.
as the single tear drops.
You would. Me too. I'll be right in that boat with
back
you.
and forth just this way I could watch you getting real close to putting that bacon in your mouth and out it goes.
All right. So can a being exist outside of time? Can bacon exist outside of time? No, it can only exist inside my mouth. And we've created this notion of time to describe our experience of moving through the universe. I don't see any way that we can reconcile not moving through the universe and also moving through time. I think the movement and is consciousness tied to time. I mean, if you weren't moving through time and you were just frozen in space, could you even be aware of your own existence?
Is that what is that technically what happens when we die? Time just ceases to exist and we become a being outside of time?
No, I don't think so. No? Because when I passed away in my chair, man, I flat out remember watching the scene. You know, it just drifted away.
I floated out of my chair.
I didn't float out of my chair.
Little context here. Infectious literally has died in his computer chair before. He's like choking himself, his head slung back, and he's like had this experience. Okay, there's your context now.
Yes, so I remember several late nights. Several late nights
on people like that.
Telling this man he should go to bed, and he's like, nah, I'm fine. I'm dead. I just died. He was in Discord. He came back alive. I heard a bunch of noise. His wife said some shit, and then I heard, oh, I'm back alive now.
Jesus.
Well, but for me, that moment, I still perceived things. Call it whatever the hell you will. I still perceived a series of motion. And it was like a two-dimensional picture that gets pulled away from you and spun, right? The last thing I remember seeing was everything that I had described to you all in the past. I'm not going to tell everybody here, but just know that time still continued, even from my perception of what I recall, right? So until the last fleeting moment of, numbness, if you will, I had a sense of self. So the consciousness element is where I'm trying to attach to here. I still think I had consciousness going on at that moment. Now, whether or not it was part of this dimension is beyond me. I can't explain it. Whiteness, blackness, all colors of the rainbow, if you will. Perception changed after the blackness. It started bright white, went to pitch black, and then something else. So consciousness was still there, though, right? Because I can talk to you guys about it. If I wasn't conscious, I would not have that memory, right? If you will. So Third dimension is what we exist in, right? And we know that there's a fourth dimension. There's possibility of 11. If we could be a dimensional being, call it a deity, whatever you will, if it's not a simulation just to get a point A to point B, and this is base reality, then dimensional beings can exist outside of time. And I think the third dimension is literally a film dimension, a series of slices of motion, if you will, or snippets of time arrayed or aligned in an array. Sequentially.
And we sort of perceive it as a continuous thing, but you're saying it's just slice.
Correct. And it could be
from
fed
our perspective
to us.
Well, that reminds me of when you said you were still perceiving things. You know what astral projection is, right? The idea that you could leave your body. Now, God, what was that one horror movie where the girl or the kid could astral project? They ended up in some other split dimension. I think maybe it's something like that. Where there's beings that live in this other plane.
Well, yeah, absolutely high probability. I mean,
because that could go back to that frequency thing, being outside of, our frequency, and that's all astral projection could be, is you're putting your body into another astral body in a different frequency, and
you've left channel 99.9 the frog and went to 101 the beast, whatever the case may be.
98.7
that kind of reminds me of that anime Bleach, the whole concept of the main character can exist in two different dimensions simultaneously, right? He can be seen in both. So it's like, and he can perceive people from this alternate dimension, the realm of the dead people or whatever. I can't remember all the terminologies and everything. People that like Bleach are going to roast me alive for this one, I'm sure, but it's fine. Mm-hmm. So he can perceive people from the other dimension just like if they were really in his, like, normal. Yeah. So he can, it's like saying to somebody, I can see ghosts. Okay. And they don't see anything, but you see it clearly, like they're standing right there. But he can cross over between the two realms, if you will, where he can exist in both, be seen in both, interact with both directly. But like 99.9% of people from his base reality cannot perceive the other one. They can't interact with it. They don't even know what's happening.
The interesting part about that too is the let's say the spirit world or the dead world there. Things in the dead world can interact with things in the living world, from my understanding. And when you kill someone in the spirit world, even though they can't see you doing that, they're technically slashing your soul and killing you. So you would just it would appear like you're having a heart attack. That's it.
Yeah, you just fall over dead.
So for people that
and nobody knows what
familiar,
happened,
or don't follow anime, the best way I can have you guys understand what these two are talking about is to watch the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that will give you 100% an idea of what this anime is about, almost to the T. Obviously with different plot lines and such, but the title says it all. A person is everywhere, all at once. Everything is happening everywhere all at once, and this particular being can travel through all of those elements so all the time. That being said, then the equation still exists. There's still a being in that moment, right? Even in this anime, there's a creature, there's a being that exists, and it goes through this. So everything that we're talking about here relies on a dimensional layer, if you will, that is inside of
there's like the veil, if you will, the veil that separates the realities, and this one person can cross that veil freely and nobody else can. It's like that kind of concept,
right?
But in Star Trek, they had this concept of time travel, and they would have to create a sort of what do they call it, a temporal bubble around their craft or their time machine, and that would protect them from the arrow of time that just wants to go in one direction. So they would essentially remove themselves from time and disconnect themselves from the flow of time, and then they could travel freely wherever they wanted to. So do you guys think that's, I mean,
well, I mean,
we know
that's
how to
what
go
this
forward in
topic
time.
is describing. Obviously, you got this idea from Star Trek. That's all I can point to at this point, because you just described the specific topic. You're saying that, what episode? What is this? Star Trek Generations? Which one is this? Because I'm going to watch it, so that I get it.
I don't know for sure. I think it's The Next Generation, because that's like my favorite one. Okay. There was like a time traveler guy that like showed up and he lied to him about his origin, and no, not Q. Okay. It was a human guy who actually was from he was from the past, and somehow he got his hands on a time machine, and he was going to the future to get to like steal technology, and then he'd go back to the past and say, "Oh, look what I invented," and become rich and famous. That was his plan.
He's straight up pulling a Biff on motherfuckers.
Yeah. So his craft would suspend the flow of time within that bubble, and that's how he would travel freely. But do you guys think that would be like a viable technology in the? But think about it this way too. When I was thinking about time travel, if time travel existed at any point in our future, if it is possible at all, wouldn't we already be aware of it? Because people from the future would be coming back to the past all the time if it were like commonplace.
Yes and yes. Yes, that could happen, and yes, I think we're aware of it. I mean, if you go down some of the interweb rabbit holes, there's plenty of pictures that say, this particular person's a time traveler. Have you ever seen the photo of somebody holding a cell phone in 1940s or 30s or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, those are the photos that I'm referencing. So all it is a matter of belief that actually occurred for somebody's perception to accept it. So
I remember when I was delving into time travel years and years ago, there was this guy who was posting on a forum. This was like in the late 90s when the internet was still kind of young and getting going, and forums were a big thing. And he claimed to be a time traveler, and he would, but he toward the end of it, he was like, what I've come to realize is my time and your time are different. Like my timeline's different. So when I went back in time, I must have split off and entered a different timeline completely, because this is not going the way that I expected it to go. Things are not happening that I remember happening.
Yeah, that ties into multiverse at that point. Because if anything can be thought of and a multiverse exists from the thought of a creation, then, like I said, exponential CPU power is going on here. So
I'm going to railroad this to the side, because this entire time I haven't been paying attention. It's entirely Lothens' fault. And I think this entire topic has started from that one character called what? Q? The douchebag god dude with the white outfit that kind of looked like, who was the one doctor? Oh, crap. Now I can't remember his name.
Q from Star Trek. Yeah.
Yeah, Q, that guy.
Yeah, they were basically all powerful beings that they could, they were like gods, because they had this, they could just do whatever they wanted to do. They could just, blink things into existence, out of existence, move, do whatever they wanted.
So what was the explanation for the existence of Q then? Did they ever explain?
I don't remember.
How?
I think they.
It just refers to him. He is an extra-dimensional being of unknown origin who possesses immeasurable power over time and space and the law of physics and reality itself.
The key word there for me was dimension. Yeah.
We're coming up on the end. Any last thoughts about time or existing outside of time or anything like that?
Yes, I think it's possible.
I think if an entity exists outside of time, it doesn't know that it exists. It's unaware. It's frozen.
But you, Grim?
Maybe it was shot into somebody's body and permanently trapped there.
Thanks for listening.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
We'll see you.
Join us next time for more Smooth Brain Radio. And don't forget, keep that one brain cell healthy until then.